understands this state and has the ability to be able to bring us together in a way that is going to promote the common good in a fiscally responsible and efficient manner that is going to make all of us in Louisiana proud of the person who stands up and represents our state to the rest of the nation and the rest of the world.
Thank you, Candidate Dardenne. Question 3 of 9, we're going to start with Candidate Kershaw. What is the cause and remedy of the current fiscal crisis?
I think we got to watch the spending for sure. I think I'm for smaller government. Let me start there. Smaller government, lower taxes, and watch the spending. Look, I have a small business. I've had my business for 20 years. My business has never written a bad check. But I know that certain times in my 20 years that I've had to cut certain things, say, out of my show, or go down to one bus instead of two buses, or you just have to know that you can't let the spending get out of control in your business. And my business has never been a bad business. It's been a good business. That's why my folks have been with me from anywhere from 15 to 20 years. They know that I will come and I'll sit down and talk to them, say, look, guys, I know the show is great right now, but we're going to have to take a couple of things out of this show for a little while to make sure all you guys get your check at the end of the week. I've never laid anybody off. My people come first. And whatever I have to cut in the show, I have to improvise and make up for what we have to do without for a while. And it's the same thing in this position. It's the same thing. There's some things we're going to have to be careful. We just got to find how much money we have and where to put it wisely to promote the state to the country and the world.
Thank you, Candidate Kershaw. Question 3 of 9. What is the cause and remedy of the current fiscal crisis? To Candidate Dardenne.
Well, we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. And the budget that Mr. Villere referred to, that's over $20 billion, is largely federal dollars. Our state revenue is $7 billion of that. So we've got an awful lot of federal money, particularly one-time federal money that came into this state. A lot of it was spent on recurring purposes. One of the biggest mistakes we make in government is spending non-recurring money on recurring expenses and failing to prioritize what's important in Louisiana. We have got to go in and do more with less and look at things programmatically, not across the board. The worst thing you can do is simply say we're going to cut across the board and all the good programs are punished equally with the poor performing programs. That's the general remedy in government. It doesn't make sense. We ought not do it. We ought to prioritize our spending, decide what's most important, and fund it appropriately, and not fund the rest.
Thank you, Candidate Dardenne. Same question, 3 of 9. What is the cause and remedy of the current fiscal crisis? Candidate Villere.
We have a tremendous problem in Louisiana with overspending. We have a bloated budget. We have politicians who just keep adding to our problem by putting more and more programs, by having special programs, by adding dollars. We have federal mandates. What we need to do is assert our rights not to keep paying for all these federal mandates. What we need to do is cut the budget. We need to cut back and spend less money. We need to set priorities, and we need to stick with the priorities. And that's what we have to do. That's important that we say no. Sometimes we just can't have everything we want. We have to find what we really need. We have to set those priorities as we would in our own families, our own businesses, and go about the job of spending the money that we have, not spending money and then reaching into our pockets, you as individuals, as business people, as property owners, and taking what you have that you can give it away to someone else on what they want to spend it on. So that's what we need to do. We need to tell the government no.
Now we move on to question 4 of 9. And I believe next up is Candidate Dardenne. It has been suggested that the office of Lieutenant Governor be eliminated. What are your thoughts?
A bill was proposed to eliminate the office. 2 people stood up and testified against the bill, a tourism leader from Southwest Louisiana and me. I testified against the bill in the legislative committee. It would have benefited me, I guess, as Secretary of State. If we didn't have a lieutenant governor, the Secretary of State would, I guess, be next in line. But that wasn't the right thing to do for Louisiana. We ought to elect a lieutenant governor. We ought to elect a person who is going to run and be accountable for the Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism, and do it in a responsible manner. You're not going to save an awful lot of money in government by eliminating that single position, unless you don't have historic sites, you close museums, you don't fund tourism, and you don't support the arts. If you want to cut all those programs, then you're going to save some money if you don't have that position and everything that goes with it. Otherwise, you're just going to be parceling it out to a bunch of other state agencies, and it's going to cost more money to the taxpayers of Louisiana, which is why I opposed the abolition of the office.
Thank you, Candidate Dardenne. Question 4 of 9. It has been suggested that the office of Lieutenant Governor be eliminated. What are your thoughts, Candidate Villere?
I have to agree with Jay Dardenne on that. I don't believe we should eliminate the office of Lieutenant Governor. I think we have to look at consolidating wherever we can in government. I believe there's a number of places we can consolidate, but eliminating the office really wouldn't save that much money. There's important things that the Lieutenant Governor's office does. And one of the things that's an ambassador for the state of Louisiana. You need to go and represent the state when the governor can't be there. You need to go when you have big companies or big corporations or big conventions. You need to be there to meet with the people, the individuals, when they're opening a new park or a new church. You need to be available, and someone needs to be there. Also, you have to run the various departments, and to hire secretaries to do that would actually cost more than it does to pay the lieutenant governor. So I think that it's a very important position, and it's one that I would support keeping.
Thank you, Candidate Villere. And now we'll hear from Candidate Kershaw. It has been suggested that the office of Lieutenant Governor be eliminated. What are your thoughts?
I can understand why someone would think that it should be eliminated. I don't think it should, because it's very important to the state. It's an important office. But I can understand because we've never really had someone who was qualified to do that job. It's a promotion job. I'm going back to that again. So I can see where some people say, well, why even have one? They don't do the job anyway. A lot of them use it as a placeholder till something better comes along. And that's not me. I want the job. I can do this job. And I want only this job. I'm not looking for another job. And that's why I signed a pledge. I would never run or campaign for any other office as long as I'm Lieutenant Governor. If the time would ever come that I wanted to run for something else, I would resign the position first. I don't believe that people should run on taxpayers' dollars. I just don't. I don't agree with that. If I'm running on taxpayers' dollars, who's taking care of my office while I'm running around the state campaigning for something else? I want this job. I ran in 2007. I wanted it then, and I want it more today, because I saw what happened in the last, since 2007, I saw what happened. We had another one that exited the office, just used it as a placeholder. And that's not what I'm about. I'm a promoter. I have experienced 40 years in the promotion business. And I would be the best lieutenant governor the state has ever had in the history of Louisiana.
Thank you, Candidate Kershaw. Question 5 of 9, we're going to start with Candidate Villere. How do you view the role of government in Louisiana's economy?
Well, I believe that government should stay out of the way. I believe that it involves itself too much. I believe the government tries to create jobs. I don't think government can create jobs. It should create the atmosphere to allow jobs to be created. It should help promote and support the creation of small businesses. It should promote the free enterprise system. I think that government has gotten too big, is too demanding on business, on individuals. So I believe that in smaller government and less government.
Thank you, Candidate Villere. And let's hear from Candidate Kershaw. How do you view the role of government in Louisiana's economy?
Well, once again, like I said, people you have to be able to know what you can spend and what you can't spend. And like I said, my little business, you know, I have about 15 or 16 employees, and they've been here a long time, but I have to know what I can spend, what I can't spend, what I'm making, what I'm not making, and the government needs to run the same way. We have to watch the spending. And it's just, there's so many things. You know, I really believe that when somebody wants to introduce a bill, you can't add anything else into the bill except what the scope of the bill is. And of course, we all know that's not how it works these days. And I believe that's wrong.
Thank you, Candidate Kershaw. Question 5 of 9. How do you view the role of government in Louisiana's economy? Candidate Dardenne?
It's very simple. Government's obligation is to create an atmosphere for private enterprise to flourish and to create an environment that will attract business to Louisiana, encourage existing businesses in Louisiana to expand. That's why I supported the repeal of the corporate franchise tax and the corporate tax on inventory, because they were impediments to business. Government has got to create incentives. I'm reminded of one of my favorite people, Groucho Marx, what Groucho Marx had to say about politics and government. He said, it's the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it wrongly, and applying unsuitable remedies. And all too often, that's what government does, and that's exactly what government ought not do. We ought to create an atmosphere for business to flourish in Louisiana, and we're capable of doing that.
Thank you, Candidate Dardenne. We move on to question 6 of 9, and we're going to start with Candidate Kershaw. Should tax policy be used as incentives for specific industries? Where would you draw the line?
Oh. Well, you know, I think that it's kind of hard to draw a line unless you sit down and start thinking about how much revenue you can really generate from one or the other. I mean, we'd love to have everybody come to the state, but I know that we can't give everybody tax incentives and tax breaks. I mean, I know that. So that's where we'd have to sit down and figure out where we're gonna make get the biggest bang for the buck. And that's what I say. It's all about promoting the state of Louisiana, and I think the money has been put a lot of times in the wrong places and wasted in the wrong places, and I think they need to be looked at again and put them in the right place so we can get the biggest bang for the buck. If it's the movie industry, like now, it's huge. I think we need to keep them going. Those folks, I mean, you know, we were number 2 behind New York and L.A., and now I think we're sitting right in the middle of both of them. And that's the tax incentives that created that for us. And the incentives are so great, there's so many states around the country is trying to copy our tax incentives, trying to take it away from us. And we can't let that happen. It's big business for us. So we have to look at which one we get the most out of.
Thank you to Candidate Kershaw. Question 6 of 9, should tax policy be used as incentives for specific industries? Where would you draw the line, Candidate Dardenne?
Last time I looked at these numbers, Louisiana and Pennsylvania were back and forth on which state had more of its native-born residents continuing to live in the state. So we in Louisiana love our state. We don't tend to leave. Our young people do, though. And what we've got to do is be sensitive to the type of businesses we need to create in Louisiana to keep our young people here and to attract bright young people from outside of the state. That's why I'm the only person in this race who can say that I had a vision that was actually accomplished. When I was in the legislature, we had a vision for the motion picture tax credit, that it would create an industry for Louisiana. And it did.